Hi, welcome to Edu4Sure online trainings. And today's topic is stored procedures. So, what is a stored procedure? Well, stored procedure are created to perform one or more DML operations on a database. So, let me precise this statement. So, in database, like we have discussed in our earlier sessions, database comprises of tables, n number of tables, and in the tables we do have data in them, right? So what do we do by making use of a stored procedure? What is it for? They are created to perform one or more DML operations. And what are DML operations? Data manipulation language operations consists of three things. Either you insert them, either you update, either you delete. Only these three operations are performed in a stored procedures. So whatever the object you take, like the advanced level objects, triggers, stored procedures, functions. These triggers are also special type of stored procedures. So it is pretty important for you to better understand how a stored procedure works. Functions, the working of function is very much similar to the stored procedure again. So all these topics are interlinked. So this is a bit important topic in the entire SQL Server to better understand, so that if you understand stored procedure, then it is cakewalk for you in understanding the functions and in understanding how trigger works. So, well, what does a stored procedure do? Stored procedures, they perform, there is a set of statements and they perform DML operations. I mean, either they insert, either they delete, or they update. Nothing else than this, right? So, and coming down to the next statement, stored procedure is a collection of statements and the procedural logic in it. That is, they are compiled, verified, and stored in a server database. This is simple. If you're familiar with some Java programs, Java language or C# language, what do? We write a code, we compile it, and we put it aside, and we can use it, compile once and use many number of times, right? That is what we do in SSMS. In SQL Server, we put certain set of statements, some SQL statements. It could be a retrieval statement, it could be an updation, it could be insert, or it could be a delete. We bundle them together. Okay, we bundle them together and put them inside a stored procedure. Like, say, suppose I can better explain this by correlating the same stored procedure topics with a method, right? We do have methods in some other languages. What do we do in the method? We write some business language, I mean, business logic in it. Okay, in short, what I can say is stored procedure has got some insert, update, and delete commands in it, and also a procedural logic. What is a procedural logic? So for better understanding, what I'll do is, okay, I would explain what actually happens. So we can let me first go through the statements over here, right? Well, coming down to the last statement, well, stored procedure is nothing but the group of statements that accept some input in the form of parameters and perform some task and may or may not return a value. Well, this is, you need to look into this because this is important statement. Well, stored procedure is nothing but a group of SQL statements. Again, the statements can be anything, but they are bundled together. Some stored procedure accepts inputs as input parameters, and some stored procedures do not accept any inputs. The stored procedure itself is self-executable. It don't need any input parameters from outside. So, and few accept input parameters and few don't accept input parameters, right? And some stored procedures may return a value, and some stored procedures may not return a value. And it is not mandatory for a stored procedure to return a value, right? So we just look into this statement first. First one, let me repeat it again. Stored procedures are created to perform one or more DML operations on a database, right? So whenever you create a stored procedure, it is not mandatory that the stored procedure change the state of the database. Okay, but I mean, sorry, it changes the state of the database. Stored procedure changes the state of the database. right? What I mean when I say it changes the state of the database. Let's look into the example. So let me first take you through the syntax, how actually a stored procedure works. The syntax goes something like this: create procedure, and you need to come with the procedure name. Okay, this is our procedure name, right? And open brackets and close brackets, right? Whenever you're creating a procedure, and if there is any parameters, I mean, where we pass the parameters from the outer side, then all those parameters should come and sit over here in between these open and close brackets. Right after that, after you close the brackets, we'll give a keyword as, and a begin followed by a begin and end. And between this begin and end, whatever the statements, whatever the set of statements, bundle statements, we place them over here. Statements are here, statements plus logic is placed between begin and end, right? Statements plus logic is placed between begin and end. So this is what the syntax of stored procedure. And I repeat, like we create table, whenever we create table in a database, what is the syntax? It is create table, table name, followed by column name and data type. Likewise, whenever we are creating a stored procedure, well, stored procedure is another object that is available in the SQL Server. So whenever you're creating a stored procedure, it means, I mean, the syntax goes pretty similar to that of the table creation syntax. Create procedure name, and if you wanted to pass any input parameters, and that those input parameters should come and sit between this open and close brackets, followed by as keyword, begin and end. So whatever the statements and whatever the logic you wanted to place in between, that should come and fall between begin and end. Here, this is the place where the actual logic comes, and this is the place where the input parameters. Don't be I mean, don't get confused when I say input parameters and output parameters and statements and logic. It will be pretty easy for you when I take you through the example. So what is input parameters? I mean, a few people might be listening to this for the very first time. So after I take you through the logic, it will be pretty easy for you to understand, right? So let's have an example. Sorry, just give me a minute. Yeah. So let us create a table named create table. Okay. Okay. Before I take you through this example, create table example, let me first create a stored procedure. Okay. Let us create the stored procedure. Okay. Or we already have tables in place. So let us look into some customers table. Customers. Just give me a minute. I'm sorry. Yeah. So let us first create okay, yeah, where are we? Here. So we already have a table named customers, right? So let us see what we have in the customers table. Yeah, here it is, customer table. So I'm executing this. Let us see. Okay, these many records we have got in the customers table. It is customer ID, customer name, education level, occupation. See, what if I wanted to retrieve, write a query to retrieve the customer details where the customer ID is some 1127. Okay. So what is the query to retrieve details of customers where the customer ID is 1127? It is where customer ID equal to 11277, right? Is this how we retrieve details of the customer whose customer ID is 11277? Yes. So click on execute. So you got this. And what if if I want you to retrieve details of customer ID whose customer ID is 11262, 262. Execute, right? So what is that we are doing over here? We are manually passing customer ID as and whenever I want you to retrieve details of customers who's based upon the customer ID, you're manually passing in the customer ID and getting me you are retrieving the details from the table customer dollar, right? Can I make this automated, like instead of writing the query every other time and getting the record and passing in the value manually? Can I do this? Yes. How do I do that? Yeah. Any guesses? We do this. We stop this manual activity of passing customer ID each and every time when we get questions to retrieve details from the customer dollar table. By passing in the customer ID, we can stop this manual activity by taking help of by making use of stored procedures. Okay, so let us see how we can stop passing on select a star from customer pseudo SQL statements, on the fly SQL statements to retrieve customer details by passing in the customer ID. So how do we do that? So let us create a stored procedure which gets the customer ID depending upon which get the customer details depending upon the customer ID, right? So what is the syntax to create a stored procedure? It goes something like this: create procedure, and name of the procedure is it can be anything. Like whenever we are creating a user stored procedure, the naming convention goes something like this. It is USP underscore, which means user stored procedure underscore. And what are we doing here? Get customer details by customer ID, right? So open brackets, close brackets, as begin end. So this is our syntax, right? Whenever you create a stored procedure, what is that? It is mandatory. What is the syntax of the stored procedure? It goes something like this: create procedure, procedure name, open brackets, close brackets. If there are any parameters, those parameters needs to be written over here, and begin followed by, after you close the open bracket, it has to be followed by as keyword, followed by begin, and followed by end. What are the statements and the logics that has to comment it between begin and end blocks, right? Begin and end blocks, right? Fine. So let me copy paste this statement, right? And I'll put this between begin and end blocks here, right? So let us see. And one more thing to be noticed. Yeah. One more thing to be noticed over here. See, if you want, if you're passing any input parameters to the stored procedure, only then you come up with this open and close brackets. If there are no parameters that are being passed to the stored procedure, you can simply ignore them. I mean, you don't need to write them, right? Uh, don't get afraid whenever you see a red line here. It doesn't mean, it not always means that something is going wrong over here. This is just an intelligence. So whenever you're creating a stored procedure, what SSMS thinks is the stored procedure should be the very first thing, must be the only statement in the batch, right? Like we have already got some select statements over here, and on top of it, we have written some notes. So that is not what this expects. So always, whenever we create a stored procedure, we can ignore this. I mean, we can take this red line. I mean, this red line over here. We can take this out if at all we create this in a new page, fresh page. See, I'm opening a new page. I'll put it over here. You don't see that red line because this is the very first. Whenever we are creating a stored procedure, the SQL Server database engine expects uh, only stored procedure without any other comments. Okay, not a problem. So we can still go ahead. We can ignore that red lines over there, right? So what is that? What is that we are doing? I have just placed the statement which is explained a couple of minutes before, like getting customer ID 11262. By passing in the customer ID 11262, I'm getting the customer details. I've just put that query straight away into this procedure between this beginner and block, and the syntax goes something like this: create procedure name. As there are no input parameters, like I don't want any input parameters, so I have taken out that open and close brackets, and there are no parameters. I'm not coming up with them. Followed by as keyword, begin and then, and the command, the statement provided in between this beginning and this select star from customer dollar by customer ID is equal to 11262. So let us select this, right, and click on execute. And if the command, if you see this commands completed successfully, which means the stored procedure has been executed successfully. If not, we need to look into the stored procedure, and we need to first understand the error, what a SQL Server database engine is trying to convey to us, and we need to debug the error. So I'm clicking on execute and see if the stored procedure gets created successfully or not. Fine. Commands completed successfully, which means a stored procedure has been created by the name USP underscore get a customer detail by customer ID. So whenever you create a stored procedure, where do we see that? Like we used to check tables in the database catalog. Is there a way wherein we can check for the procedures? Yes, you can straight away get into the database you're working with. AdventureWorks 2014 is the database I'm working with. Click on this, and this one, programmability. Like tables, you don't find the stored procedures or something. All the stored procedures, functions, they're all placed inside this folder, right? In the programmability folder. Expand this stored procedure folder and you'll find the procedure which is created by us. What are all the user stored procedure created? They are all placed over here. So what is the name of our stored procedure? It is USP underscore get customer details by customer ID. See where it is. Yeah, here it is. USP get customer details by customer ID. So this is how you check if at all the stored procedure has been created successfully in the database or not. Let's get back to our topic. So now the procedure has been created. How do we execute the procedure? So syntax to execute a stored procedure goes something like this. Sorry. Stored procedure is execute and name of the stored procedure. The syntax. If there are any parameters, if you have any input parameters, you need to come up with the input parameters. If not, you can ignore them. Like in our stored procedure, I don't have any input parameters, like I said here. So how do I execute this? It is execute exec, and the name of the stored procedure is USP underscore get customer details by customer ID. So any guesses what would be the output of when I execute this execute underscore ESP? What is that we are getting? It is customer ID, customer name, education level, and occupation management. What is that? whatever that is being written in between begin and end is being executed over here. See, even if I run the statement from outside individually, it gives me the same result. And even if I execute the stored procedure, it gives me the same results, which means whatever we write in between begin and end is being executed and it is given to us. So this is written only once. So am I calling this entire statement? Do I write select the star from customer dollar by customer ID is code 11262? Do I do this every other time? Do I write this every other time? No. What am I doing? I've written it once, compiled it once, and it got stored in the AdventureWorks database under programmability folder and in stored procedures, right? It is stored once, compiled and stored, and I can execute this any number of times. Any number of times. The result remains the same. You got it? Now you understand what do we do with the stored procedure? So now I would like to make a small change here. I just wanted to pass it. So, it doesn't make any sense. Say, maybe I'm an employee, I'm an end user who wanted to know the customer details of where customer ID is 11262, but there might be some other guy who is my fellow colleague who is working on a customer whose customer details where customer ID is 11277. So it doesn't make any sense if we keep on creating stored procedure for individual customer IDs, right? Do you think this makes any sense? Like if I create another customer ID by customer name 11277 and I change this number over here 11277, like we can create any number of stored procedure, but this doesn't make any sense. Can we create only one stored procedure and can we get a variety of customer details depending upon the customer ID? Yes. How do we do that? By passing in the input parameters. How do we do that? So let us see. I'll drop this procedure for the time being. Okay. So what is the stay syntax to drop a procedure? Drop procedure name. So this is how you drop a procedure. I'm dropping this. You see, in AdventureWorks 2014 database under programmability folder under stored procedure, we see this USP underscore get customer details by customer ID is the stored procedure we have created, and it is clearly seen over here. Now I'm dropping this from the database. Let us see if the stored procedure is dropped. It says commands completed successfully. Now let me go over here and click on right. I do a right click and say refresh, and let us see if the stored procedure is still seen here. No, it is gone. See, it was there somewhere over here. Now you can't see that, which means we have dropped the stored procedure successfully. Now let me create the same procedure again, but this time I don't want the procedure to pass on the same customer details, but this time as and when I would like to create a stored procedure with the input parameters. So now you better understand how an input parameter work actually. So let us create the same stored procedure, create procedure, USP underscore get, and see, whenever you're giving a name, it is advisable not to give any spaces between them. If the name is too long, just make use of the underscore. Nothing else, nothing other than underscore. Please make sure there shouldn't be any spaces. So it is not a good thing to give spaces and make use of some other special characters or something to keep things short and one should clearly understand by the name what is that stored procedure for. So here, see, if you can look into the name, it is starts with USP, which means user stored procedure. Why do we come up with a naming convention USP? Because in SQL Server, we also have system stored procedures. So as to bifurcate between system stored procedures and user defined stored procedure, we used, because USP is nothing but user stored procedure, which is created by a user. I'm a user, I'm a SQL user, and I have created this stored procedure. So so it gets prefixed by USP followed by the procedure name. What is the procedure name here? Get customer details by customer ID. So you're clear. What are we doing in this procedure? We are getting the customer details by customer ID, by passing in the customer ID. So in short form, this name is enough. This is self-explanatory to understand what is the logic we put between begin and end blocks, right? So customer, let me get back to this and create the stored procedure details by customer ID, like how the actual syntax goes, open brackets, close brackets, as begin, end, right? So now I would just wanted to give an what do you want me to give? Input parameters. How do we give that input parameters? I'll say input parameter 1, input parameter 1, and I'll give an data type for this. Why are we giving this data type? I'll also tell you that. So I'll take this as an integer, right? You come over here and I'll copy paste the same statement. And instead of manually hard coding 11262, what I do is whatever the input parameter I have created over here, I'll pass this input parameter over here. Now let us see what actually happens. I'm pretty sure you're going to understand this. So what I'll do is I'll see we have already created it earlier, and right after that we have dropped the procedure and we have checked it over here. There is no stored procedure with the name USP underscore get customer details by customer ID. Now I'm recreating the procedure by making use of the input parameter. There is no manual hard coding of the customer ID over here. Whatever the input parameter I have created over here in between these two open and close bracket, the same input parameter is being passed over here. And what is that I have done? For the input parameter, I have given the data type as int. Why I have given int, I would explain. I'll be explaining in a while. So let me run this let me create this store procedure, select and click on execute. See, the command has been completed successfully, which means we have created a stored procedure in the name of USP underscore get customer details by customer ID with input parameter. So let's come over here, right click and say refresh. You will see it is over here again. Get customer details by customer ID has been created successfully. See if there are any parameters, you are able to see it over here, right? I should have shown you earlier. If you click on this parameters folders, you will have for each and every procedures we create. And if there are no parameters, it will be blank. If there are parameters, we'll have something like this. The name provided, the input parameter name, what we provided over here will be shown over here, right? So we have created it. Now let us execute. Execute. What is the syntax to execute a stored procedure? Execute procedure name followed by parameters. So what is that? What is the name of our parameter? It is at the rate. What happened? Sorry. At the rate input parameter 1, right? So what if I execute this? Do you think this works? Will this be working? It won't work. Why? Because at the rate input parameter. So what are we doing actually? I'll tell you. See. So this is our table, right? I'll take this off first for timing. I'll comment this. So this is our table. This is the table being used here. So customer dollar is the table. What do we have in customer dollar table? We have got customer ID, customer name, education level, occupation. These are the 4 columns we are having in customer table. So what is the data type of customer ID? What is the data type of customer ID? How do we check that? SP underscore help customer dollar is the command to check for the table structure. This float over here. So float, int, whatever it is, you can come up with the float value or you can come up with the int value. So okay, we'll take a float, not a problem. So let me explain you whatever it is of type integer. It is of type numeric. This is not a varchar. It is of type numeric, right? So what I'll do is whenever you create an input parameter, and that input parameter is nothing but nothing but instead of manually hard coding the stuff, we are passing in a dynamic, parameter which changes with every user execution, right? What did we do earlier? We have hard coded it over here so that we don't pass any input parameters and it doesn't make any sense. Whatever the logic, whatever the statement we made to sit between this beginner and blocks executes, and only that result will be thrown back to us. But here, instead of hard coding stuff, I've given the input parameter, and the input parameter created by is of type integer. Okay, so what is the customer ID? Here it is float. Instead of int, we can also take as float, not a matter. So, but like we have already created this, I'll do one thing. I'll drop it and I'll recreate it for better understanding. Like we have dropped it. See, after you have dropped, refresh this, and you won't find that USP underscore get customer details by customer ID stored procedure, right? So it is of type float. So now understand the actual concept. Why do we create an input parameter, and what is the data type? Why do we assign a particular data type for the input parameter? So what is that we are doing? Earlier, what did we do? We manually pass this value, and every time we run the stored procedure, only this 112, what is that? We have passed the value earlier, 11262. Every time we run the stored procedure, we used to get these details. 11262 Jennifer Simmons, batches and management. But now, whenever I want to execute a stored, I'm creating a stored procedure which can be used by any number of users. Any number of users. If say I'm interested in getting details of 11330, and you might be interested in getting details of 11277. So can I get a variety of details, variety of customer details by only making use of one customer, by making use of only one stored procedure? Yes, we can do this by creating a stored procedure with input parameter. What is that input parameter? Like I'm creating something. Whenever you create a parameter, it is mandatory to create it. But and this is you need to follow this at the rate followed by any name, which means whenever you create it, whenever you say at the rate, it means you're making use of the variables, right? Input parameters or variables. These are temporary placeholders, temporary storage. These are used for temporary storage. Okay, they only hold the value for a certain time. The value can be constant all through the procedure, or value gets changed with the time. So this purely depends upon the way you use the variables. Of sometimes in stored procedure it is called the parameters, and in at some other places it is called variables, right? So what is the statement you write between begin and end? It is select star from customer where customer ID is equal to what will you be passing in the place of input parameter. Obviously, if you want to get the customer details where customer ID, you have to pass the customer ID only, right? So what is the type of customer ID? It is float. Okay, so this is why I have created an input parameter of type float. Simple. So why did I use this? So whenever you pass an input parameter, I'll tell you. Okay, we'll do one thing. We'll execute this. Command has been completed successfully. So when I come over here, and this is the syntax to execute the stored procedure with input parameter. What I'll do is I'll copy this and I'll paste it over here, and let me run this command. So if I wanted to pass 1127 as 11277 as input parameter, what is that I'm expecting? I'm expecting this as output, right? Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. What is the output? I'm expecting. OP would be this if at all I'm passing 11277 as the customer ID, right? So add input parameter 1 is equal to this is equal to what am I supposed to pass? I'm passing in 11277. So let us see if at all I get the same input or not. Got it? What actually happened? This is what we are expecting. 11277 as customer ID, Charles Jackson as customer name, partial college as education level, occupation is professional. Like whenever we are passing the input, the output changes with the input parameter value. Like say now there is my friend who want to get the customer details of what is that? What's his name? Let me execute this again. My friend want to get customer details of 11233. What do I do? I'll just go, I'll execute this and 11233. So will I be getting the same result, or same old result, or will I be getting 11233? I would get this result, 11233, Haley Patterson, high school professional. Let me click on select and see. What happened? Sorry. Double one. Oh, sorry. I have given 11233. It is double one. It is 11223. Sorry. Got it? So now let us decode what actually happening. Whenever you're passing this, what happens is, okay, I'll take this out. I'll clear them off. So what is happening behind the scenes? What is that? It is happening. So we have a stored procedure named. So this is a stored procedure, and you're passing the input parameter as 11233. So what actually happens whenever you pass input parameters 22133, it take input parameter and runtime. It goes. We are setting this input parameter with 11233. So what actually happens is whenever it goes inside, select star from customers where customer ready, the input parameter is set with the value 11233. Runtime at runtime 11233. So this is what happens, and again this gets executed. 112, sorry, 11223. 11223. Yes, Ahuga. Got it. So likewise, you can pass any number of any people simultaneously. More than one people can use the stored procedures at the same time with different values or with the same values. The stored procedure works. It is instant. So I'll open two to three new windows, assuming each and every window is of different users. So what I'll do is I'll just get this execute stored procedure syntax, right? With which is with input parameter behind the scenes. So now you understand, right, how an input parameter works. Whenever we set a value for input parameter, it comes and sits in the place of input parameter, and that is how the statements works. Hope you're clear how things works behind the scenes. So I'll take this, right? I'll put it over here. I'll take this window. I'll put it over here, right? And now let me pass different customer ID values. Okay, I'll take this 11330 here, and I'll change the input parameter as this, and here 1277. I'll take this and pass it in a different window. So I'm executing this. This gets executed. It is executed. I'm executing this. Executed. So it means we have created the stored procedure once, and we can use it any number of times, and the stored procedure can be used with any number of users. The result is purely dependent upon the customer ID we pass in. So now I believe you are clear with the topic of input parameters and what does a stored procedure do. We create it once and it gets compiled and saved in the server database, and this can be used by the end user any number of times. If you want a different output, you need to pass different values. And how is that possible? How can we achieve that? By creating input parameters. Every other time you change the value of input parameter, the query which is written in between begin and end blocks gets changed at the runtime, and we get the result accordingly. Clear? Hope you're clear with the stored procedure topic, and let's get ahead. And we'll see a few other topics in stored procedure. So now let me create a table named employee. It has got 4 columns, employee ID of type int, and I'm making use of the identity function 1 comma 1. Right? When I say identity function 1 comma 1, do I need to pass the value from outside? No. We can ignore employee ID column because the numbers are auto generated and it is of type int. So obviously the maximum value would be the range, last value that is available in the range of data type int. And I'm setting the not null constraint for this employee ID, which means no null values are allowed, and I'm treating this as primary key. Whenever I say primary key, which means it has unique values and no duplicate values and no null values, right? And there are other column names, employee name of type string. So I take varchar 50 and I'm limiting the size to 50. Employee name of only 50 characters are allowed, not more than that. At most 50 characters. Employee designation of type string, and again employee address of type string, and the lengths are 50. So I would allow only 50 characters, not more than that. So let me create this table. Okay. Perfect. Table has been created successfully. Now, how do we insert values into this table? We make use of a command, insert into table, insert into employee, column names, empid, right? Emp name, emp designation, emp address, values, and employee ID. Okay, I'm sorry. As the employee ID is, we have come up with an identity function on top of employee ID column in employees table. We can ignore this. So we need to pass only values for employee name, designation, and address. Okay, name could be Vijay. Designation is senior software engineer, and employee address is Delhi. So this is how we insert values into tables on general basis. Can we insert values by making use of a stored procedure? Can we do that? Is it possible? Let us see if that is possible or not. I'm not inserting any values into table employee. We can, for better understanding, I would run this query. Let's start from employee and see if there are any records already available in this table or not. Oh, sorry, it is not employee, it is employee triple E. There are no tables. I mean, there are no data in this table. So now let us create a procedure. Create a procedure employee proc. Okay. And open brackets, close brackets. Like I have created 3 things over here, like 4 parameters. What am I doing? What is 5 input parameters? First one is of first parameter is of employee ID. Second parameter, see, it is not mandatory that you need to come up with the names at the rate input parameter 1, input parameter. It's up to you. For better understanding, it goes with the flow. If you want to name EMP ID, then you can go for it. Like what are we doing? What is our intention to create a stored procedure? I wanted to insert data into this table employee triple E. So what are the columns I have got over here? Employee ID, employee name, employee designation, and employee address. So likewise, so I wanted to insert this, right? So I'm making use of these 4 column names again over here as input parameters. Okay, employee ID of type. I'm making use of the same column types, data types. Employee ID is of as employee ID is of type identity. You don't need to pass in this. So this can be ignored. Okay, let us see. And employee name. So if you want to pass it as an input parameter, it's a at the rate. Whenever you say at the rate, it becomes an at the rate between these open and close brackets. It becomes a parameter, input parameter. And this is of type. I've copy pasted the same varchar 50, employee designation varchar 50, employee addresses varchar 50, right? So there is an additional parameter input at the rate optional opt. What is that you're opting for? And it is of type varchar and it accepts only 8 characters. So let us see. So close brackets as begin. If your option is to insert, then we need to begin under begin. Okay. Hope you're aware of how actually if nested if statement works, or if statement works. If the option is insert, then get into this block. And what is that we have got in this block? Right. I would make this bit clear for you. Okay, now what is it I'm saying? If your option is insert, then get into this block and execute this. What is that we have got? Insert into employees. See here, we did not come up with this employee ID. Then when I said employee ID is we have created and we made use of the identity function on top of employee ID column. Then why did we create an parameter over here? This might not work with. See, you can create parameters and it is not mandatory to use all the parameters. It's up to you. If you want to use the parameter, you can use it. And if you don't want to use the parameter, you better not create it. And if you have created it, it is okay. If you are not using it, not a problem. So in insert, you don't need that employee ID parameter because employee ID is an identity function. So employee ID gets generated automatically, right? So you don't need to insert employee ID additionally in case of insert. But when you want to update or when you want to delete, it is mandatory to have that employee ID. Only, I mean, how do we do that? We update things on row. If at all we want to update a specific row, we can do that. We can do that only by identifying the record. I mean, by making use of the primary key column record, which uniquely identifies the entire row in a table, in a particular table. See, here we are making use of it, where employee ID is equal to employee ID. And even with delete, you need to identify the record. I think I believe that you are aware of the syntaxes to update and delete. So the update state syntax goes something like this: update a table name, set whatever the columns you want to update, you can update them over here, where employee ID is equal to. If you are failing to give this condition where everything in the table gets updated, I would show you what would be the disadvantage if you are not coming up with an update statement. So hope you are clear. I repeat, we have created a table named employee triple E, okay, where employee ID, employee name, employee designation, and employee addresses are the column names. And in this table, we did not do any insertion operations. The table is empty, it is clean. You can check this by running this statement. So everything is empty, right? So now I'm creating a stored procedure to insert, not only to insert, but also to update and delete accordingly. So for insertions, what all we needed to insert a record into a table, we need to pass on the values for employee name, employee designation, and employee address. Employee ID, do we need to pass? No, because we have an identity function on top of employee ID column in employee triple E table, right? And there is an additional parameter named at the rate OPT, which accepts 8 characters, right? What is this for? I have told you, like, to choose what do we do, what do we need to do if we want to insert. So we need to pass OPT as insert. If we want to update, and we need to pass update, we need to set update as OPT. If we want to delete, we need to pass delete as OPT, right? These are all the input parameters. Like I have already explained that how the data type goes. Sorry. So again, coming back over here, if we are doing an insert, Just get into this begin and end block and do and run this command. What is that command? Employee insert into employee. This is the general insert statement, right? Insert into employee, column names, values, and we are passing in the values. How are we passing the values? By making use of the input parameters here, right? And where is this opt? We are using it on top. So as to, like, we see we have got three conditions over here. If the opt value is insert, only run this and do nothing. If the opt value is update, only run this block. Get into this block, it comes here, it checks if it is update, then get into this begin and end block and it runs the block and just comes out of it. And if the opt is delete, it checks where the delete is. Insert, no, update, no, delete, it is over here. So it has to enter this block and run this. That's it. So let us execute this procedure and see if this gets executed successfully. Oh my God. Why? See, the table name provided by us here, it is wrong. It is employee. What is the error says invalid column name EMP? Because in employee table, we don't have these columns in employee table. See, I would run this. See, these are different. So what am I saying? What is that error says? In employee table, we don't have EMP name, employee designation, employee address, cause that is a different table and this is a different table. So I'm just correcting my error. So what I'll do is, this is what the table created by us. So I'll change the table accordingly. Right now, you won't be coming across any error. I'll run this procedure. Commands completed successfully, which means the stored procedure has been executed successfully. And you can see this over here. Refresh. Employee proc. On very first one is a stored procedure created by us. I'm sorry, actually you need to give it as USP underscore. And this is a good way of writing a procedure. It doesn't matter if you're not putting it, but it would be easy and it is advisable to prefix USP underscore whenever user defined stored procedure has been created, right? So how do we do that now? So let us see how it goes. So what is the syntax to execute a procedure? It is exec. What is the name of the procedure? Employee proc. See, and what is that we are doing now? I wanted to, as there are no records, what I'll do is I'll first insert, right? But first insert the record. And whenever, okay, whenever you're making use of the input parameters and whenever you're setting the value in input parameters, do not make use of the data types. That's a blunder. We only define the data types for the very first times and between the open and close brackets. Not every time. So we just need to pass on the values over here now. That's it, right? So what is firstly what we need to do? So see, here the order is not important as we are coming up with the input parameters. So the order is not important. First, I wanted to do an insert. And see, I'll copy this insert. What I'll do is I want to do an insert. And as I'm doing an insert, so on top of employee ID column, we already have identity function, so I can ignore this. Okay, I don't want to pass that value. Employee name, I want it as Vijay Bandari. Right? Employee designation is senior software engineer. Employee address is Hyderabad. So what happens if I run this procedure? I'll tell you what happens behind the scenes. Whenever I run this, what is happening behind the scenes is it is first sees what is the opt over here, insert. So First, it gets into the stored procedure. Here, it gets into the stored procedure and see where the opt is inserted. It is over here. It is matched. So what it does is it gets into these blocks. So insert into employees, it takes this and this will be executed. I'll bring it out here. So I'll tell you. And at employee name, Vijay Bandari is being passed. And employee designation, this is being passed. And employee address, this is being passed. This is what happening, right? First at opt, it first goes and see where the option choose by us is insert, whether it is insert or update or delete. It goes here, it checks and sees it is matching over here. The option selected by us is insert, so it is insert is over here. So it gets into this block and this block gets executed. How the values are being passed into this? We may use of the same input parameters over here, and that is how whenever we pass values at the runtime, those values comes in fits into this insert statement this way. So this is what happens behind the scenes. So like is the same with update and delete. If at all our option is update, as we don't have any records in the table, so I can't show you how update and delete works. First, we'll try to insert some 5 to 6 records and then we'll see how update and delete also works, right? Let us come over here and say, so this is only for your understanding, okay? I'm just commenting this. You can comment this by, if you want to comment line by line, make use of the double hyphen, and if you want to comment the entire as a block, then make use of forward slash and an asterisk and asterisk and a forward slash. This is how you comment the entire block. So this is our what do we say? I'm gonna execute, and my option choose by me is this. Insert is option choose by me. So let us see. So before I execute this, I make sure that we don't have any records in table employee triple E. Have any table? I don't have any records. Now I'm executing this. Your function express parameter template which was not supplied. Okay. So okay. Yeah, sorry. So I've executed this statement. See, that is because uh, employee ID is the parameter. Whenever you create a parameter, okay, whenever you define a parameter, input parameters, it is mandatory to use, but you can making use of it or not making use of it, it purely depends upon you. Whatever the value you set over here is not constant. You can change it. As in you bring it inside, you can change the value. Runtime, if at all, see, I've passed it 0 over here, and I can pass a null value over here, which means these are default values. If at all I'm not giving anything, these values will be considered, right? but these are not this mandatory. If at all we fail to whenever we fail to give the values for employee name or employee designation or employee address, these values will be taken, will be treated as default values, and these values will be considered. So so you need to make sure that whatever the input parameters you create over here are and what are the values you set to this input parameters are not final. Whenever you pass on values at the runtime over here, these values are final. So let me insert few more records. Okay. Hyderabad, Delhi, Gurgaon, Bangalore, Gurgaon. Okay. Associate software engineer, lead engineer, software engineer, principal engineer, right? So let him Ajay Bandari, Visruth Bandari, oh, and I just wanted to create four more records. Uh, okay, we have created the very first record, Vijay Bandari. Let us see what is the employee ID taken over here by default. Select star from employee. So yeah, this is what we have expected employee ID, as there is an identity function on top of this employee ID column. So I'm asking the identity function is set something like this 1, 1, which means the starting value is 1. And every time whenever a new record is inserted, it has to be incremented by 1. Last generated value plus 1 is. So when I insert Ajay Bandari as my very second record, so what would be the employee ID? It is 2. So let us see if this is what we are expecting. To Ajay Bandari, Associate Software Engineer, Delhi. As our option is insert, see it is being inserted into this table. Likewise, we'll execute the rest of the three. 3 rows has been affected, and see if all 5 rows has been affected. Yeah, this is what we are expecting, and this is what we have got by making use of the stored procedure. So by making use of the stored procedure, we can insert into a table. We can insert data into the table. So we have also got 2 more options, update and delete. How do we do that? So let us see what I wanted to do and what is that we have written in update. So let's get into this block and see optional. When optional is update, what is that I'm setting? Employee name, employee designation, and employee address, where employee is equal to this, right? So what I'll do is I'll copy paste the last one. Okay, so here I wanted to update. Okay, I always just wanted to update. What we'll do is we'll copy this and paste this to avoid any manual errors. So it is not Gurugram, but I just wanted to Kolkata, and it's not principal engineer, is an intern. I'm just changing this stuff. Sherolana, the name remains the same. Okay, but the employee designation, I'm changing it from principal engineer to intern, and the employee address from Gurugram to what? Kolkata. Let us see if this works. And see, whenever you're working with update, you should also pass employee ID, right? Because look into the statement what we have written for the update block, update optional. When the option is update, what is that? What are all the variables we are using? Employee name, employee designation, employee address, and also employee ID. And what is the employee ID for Sherol Anand? Yeah, it is at the rate employee ID as number 5, right? So behind the scenes, what happens is whenever you pass this statement, okay, what happens is, I'll tell you. What is this? Yeah. Behind the scenes, it goes, so what actually happens is, goes into this procedure first, it gets into this procedure, and these are all the initial values, like we have already passed in the values, so all these values gets ignored, okay? All these values are ignored, as the option is update over here. See, what is the option I've chosen? Update. So it enters the block, begin block, and it checks for the update statement, update command, where @opt is update. Here it is update. So it's getting to this block, and it gets it only this will be executed. How is this? How will this update statement gets executed behind the scenes? Do something like this in the name of employee name, whatever the value we pass from the outside, it gets appended over, it sits over here, and at the employee designation, it gets it over here, and employee address, Kolkata comes and sits over here, where employee ID is equal to 5. 5 is here. That's what we are passing in. So 5. So behind the scenes, this is the command which is gonna execute if at all you're passing on this statement at the runtime, as our option was update. We have chosen update as our option, so that is what we're going to perform. Look into this, just keep this in mind. This is what we have got before we are making an update. The employee is 5, employee name is Sherol Anand, employee designation was principal engineer, and Gurugram. I'm just copying this. Before update, after update, what is that I'm expecting? 5, Sherol Anand, and here I would get intern, and this would become Kolkata. So this is what I'm expecting. This is what happens. This is how the logic happens behind the scenes. Again, let's comment this. This is only for your understanding how things works in stored procedure whenever you choose a particular option, right? So I'm executing this, and before I'm executing, I re-execute this select star from employee and see, make sure you remember this. Sherol Anand, principal engineer, and Gurgaon. Executing this command. One row has been executed successfully. Now let me see if we have updated things accordingly. Sherol Anand, intern, Kolkata. Done. Now you're clear. Now I also wanted to explain. So likewise, delete works. So how delete works? What is that we are expecting in delete? We only need to pass one parameter in delete. Cause see, in delete, we make use of only employee ID. So if we pass only one employee ID, that is fine. So let us delete. What shall we delete? We'll delete this record, Vishrutanand. So how do we do that? Execute. What is the syntax to run a stored procedure? Execute, name of the procedure, and what is that in parameter we are supposed to pass? @ employee ID is equal to 3, comma @opt is equal to delete. Okay, you can do this. Give it a try and let me know if this works or not. Okay. So as we have declared all the parameters here, here we have declared all the parameters. What do we do is we just we just wanted to delete employee ID 3, right? So select a star from employee. Employee will run this and we'll see. Yeah, this 5 over here. So we wanted to delete this entire record. So what we'll do is employee is equal to 3 and where at the rate employee name. I'll copy paste all this to save our time, right? So what is the name? It is Vishrutanan. And who is he? Lead engineer. Where is he from? Gurgaon. Delete. I'm running this. Manro has been affected. Let us see if Vishwatanand has been deleted successfully from the table. See, there is no employee ID with the name number 3. There is no record in the name of Vishwatanand, no lead engineer. There is no record from Gurgaon. So that is how we create stored procedure to insert, update, and delete. And also we have in the beginning of the session we have discussed how can a stored procedure be used. I mean, see, this is all the logic. What is that we are doing in the stored procedure? We are doing the DML operations. So our statement, stored procedures are created to perform one or more DML operations on database. So how many DML operations did we do in our last stored procedure, which is employee underscore prop? We did all the 3 DML operations, but not at the same time. At every other time, every single time, we are making use of either delete, update, insert, or delete, right? Yeah. So now let us discuss about the benefits of using a stored procedure, right? So what can we achieve by creating a stored procedure? Can we modify the stored procedure? Yes, it is pretty easy for us to modify the stored procedure without the need to restart or deploying the application. For example, if the T-SQL queries are written in application, if you need to change the logic, we must change the code in the application and redeploy it. And SQL Server Stored Procedure eliminates such challenges by storing the code in the database. So we want to change the logic inside the procedure. We can just do it by simple alter procedure statement. Yeah. If you remember, earlier we have created the very first stored procedure of ours. We have created with where customer ID is of type int. Again, we have altered it. We have dropped instead of dropping, we can also alter the stored procedure, right? We alter the stored procedure and we can change the data type, or if at all we want to change the logic present inside begin and end blocks, we can do that as well, right? So what actually happens is whenever we write a code, we can write code in both at database side or and we can also write the code at the application side. So whenever, if at all you are writing code in the application side, if at all you want to make a single change, you need to bring down the application, make changes, and then you up the application, which is not feasible. You can avoid all this first things only by creating a simple stored procedure. And whenever you want to make any changes in the stored procedure, you don't need to stop the application and bring it on once the changes are done. You can do it simultaneously. You can just make changes by making use of alter procedure, alter procedure, and just go into that and make changes and do that. See, I'll show you a simple example. Earlier, we have created a stored procedure. Here it is. If at all I wanted to, we have already stored procedure. We have this in our databases, usp underscore get customer details by customer ID. Here the input parameter, what is the type I have created over here? Float. But if I want to change it to int, what I can do is I simply change from create to alter, and I can run this. Now when it says commands has been completed successfully, which means now here the input parameter is of type integer and it accepts integer values. So you find it easy to change and store procedure, it is pretty easy for you. And if you don't want all the columns to be called from customers table and you want only few columns to be called like you want to change this logic straight away, not all the columns, you want only customer ID, you don't want customer ID but you want customer name, educational level and occupation, you can make changes accordingly and you say execute. Select this and see, make sure you type alter here, you don't create, you are altering the procedure. So the syntax is alter procedure, procedure name, and the entire code, click on execute. The commands has been completed successfully, which means procedure has been altered. Earlier it was float here, the input at the rate input parameter 1, I mean the input parameter is of type float, but now I have changed it to integer. How much time did it take for me to change from float to int? Seconds. And earlier it was, earlier I used to call, when I say star, I'm calling all the columns that are available in the table customer dollar, but now I'm selectively calling the columns. I don't want to call customer ID. I only wanted to call customer name, education level and occupation. So I've made changes and I've altered the procedure. So this is that easy to make any changes in the procedure. Easily modified is the very first statement, is the very first benefit of using a stored procedure. What is the second one? Reduce network traffic. What do you mean by reduce network traffic? When we use stored procedure, instead of writing DSQL queries at the application level, only the procedure name is passed over the network instead of the whole DSQL code. So what is this? Like, okay, we'll get back. So whenever you're writing this, select a star from customer where customer ID is equal to 1127. The entire query is being sent to the server, and there the request SQL server looks into the request and it processes and it sends us back the results. But whenever we are working with a stored procedure, like I said, stored procedure is compiled once, so it has got its own execution plan. So whenever you send these kind of T-SQL queries, every time you send a query, every time an execution plan, I mean the cost effective plan is being generated. Okay, so every time the calculation needs to be done. So this increases the network traffic. But when a stored procedure is created, something like this, and when it gets executed for the very first time, even this creates a execution plan. But every other time, whenever you create a stored, whenever you call a stored procedure, it won't go to the server, but it has got its own plan. So it just gets a value from its plan. I mean, no execution plan is created every other time a stored procedure is created. It is called. So this makes clear that there is no huge traffic on the network when we are using stored procedures. Okay, let's get into point 3. Reusable. We have seen this, stored procedures can be executed by multiple users or multiple client applications without the need of writing the code again. We have used it different windows, right? And like with the different users. Reusability. Security. Stored procedure reduce the threat by eliminating the direct access to tables. We can also encrypt the stored procedure while creating them so that the source code inside the stored procedure is not visible. Use third-party tools like Apex, Decrypt to decrypt. Okay. We can also create stored procedure. I mean, we can also encrypt them. See if I have created the stored procedure, and if I want to see These are all the stored procedures that are available in this database AdventureWorks 2014. And if I want to see what actually written in this stored procedure, right click on this and you can say modify. It gets opened in a new window, and every user who has got access to SQL Server AdventureWorks 2014 able to see what have we written in the stored procedure. It is taking some time. Just wait for it. It should open. I'm sorry, I don't know why, but this is taking more time. Like that is how you open stored procedure from the programmability folder. Okay, come select any stored. If you want to view what is the code that is being written in this any of the stored procedure, select the stored procedure, right click on that, and you say modify stored procedure, and don't modify it. You're just looking into that. So that is how you see. So security wise, so we can also encrypt. So now here in this case I can look into the code, what code have we written in that particular usp underscore purchase stored procedure. I can also stop users from accessing from looking into the code what which has written by me by encrypting the stored procedure. When I say encrypt, everyone might be aware of that encryption. That's a security mechanism wherein the actual words are replaced by some characters or some binary numbers. So that is how we're gonna see this, how a stored procedure can be encrypted. We will be looking into that shortly. Don't know why it is taking much time. The SSMS is not responding. We'll wait for some time, we'll see. And meanwhile, we'll look into this, the performance. Like we discussed, whenever a stored procedure is created for the very first time, it creates a plan and stores it in the buffer pool. So as and when we call a stored procedure again and again by multiple users, it won't create an execution plan again and again. Like as it gets compiled for the very first time, it creates a plan, it makes use of the same plan which is already stored in the buffer pool. This is how it reduces the network traffic. And these are the advantages. So just give me a minute. I'll look into this, why this is not responding.